Thank you everyone for tuning in to yet another episode. Another because maybe I don't speak English very good. So thank you everyone for tuning in to yet another episode in which I talk about issues related to public transport. We're going to talk today about split trains because I've been badgered to talk about it for months. So let's start by defining what a split train is. This is a split train. I don't know if they show the splitting operations. I doubt it. But a split train is something that occurs when a train is, split into two at some point along the line, which could be that a tail of the line, this is the example that I'm linking to, the Shonan Shinjuku line, the tail of the line runs shorter trains, so essentially a portion of the train, in this case, the extra 5 cars, instead of buying enough extra 5-car sets to run full service on the entire line, they buy fewer of them so that they can run them only where they're necessary for reasons of capacity. This is because the limiting factor here is capacity. This is a line in Tokyo that passes through central Tokyo. So as you can imagine, capacity is a very significant concern, and maybe they don't want to have to upgrade the entire line to take 15-car trains. I imagine the cost of the rolling stock is negligible. The Japanese trains are famous for their low acquisition cost, and so presumably they're doing it so that they don't need to lengthen the platforms on the stations at the stations on the northern tail, north of Kogane. So this is one reason why you might split a train. So you do it. So you split a train. It means, again, fewer cars run to a tail. You do it probably as a capacity move, or because the trains, or because you don't want to deal with things like selective door opening. Certainly not. I don't actually know if there's any selective door opening in Japan. So one alternative in this case would be selective door opening, which is when the train is longer than the platform. So the frontmost cars or the backmost cars, or some of the frontmost, some of the backmost cars don't open their doors. I do not know if it ever occurs in Japan. I think I was told that in the Netherlands it's illegal for safety reasons. I know it is a thing in the United Kingdom, and it is a thing in the United States. And in the United Kingdom, I believe it's only done when the train is only slightly longer than the platform. So let's say maybe an 8-carriage train when the platforms are only long enough for 6, or maybe 9 for 7. I don't remember the exact circumstances in London. In New York, it actually happens very often on the Metro North New Haven line. Maybe also on the other Metro North lines, I don't know. But the one that I ride all the time is New York to all the time. I don't live there, but when I visit New York to New Haven, has that quite a lot. The trains are typically 8 cars. Some of the intermediate stations have certainly 6, maybe even 4. So they tell you that to walk front or to walk back, or to walk both ways if it's in the middle. I don't remember. And sometimes it can be even more lopsided, like only 3 doors will open on a very long train, but that's usually with conductors handling everything and doing manual door opening on intercity trains. Now obviously you're not going to do that in Japan because they don't have armies of conductors in Japan. They do. The trains in Japan very often have conductors. I don't know if Shonan Shinjuku does. Some trains in Japan are driver only, but I think they're only very urban lines, not Shonan Shinjuku, but things like Yamanote. On this, oh yeah, the New York City subway has that too, but it's very rare. Only at a handful of stations, like maybe the old South Ferry station. Then they built a new one that didn't, and I think they had to go back to the old one because of the hurricane, or the northern end of the 3 train. Oh, and GT has that as well. Oh, and the Harlem line. Oh, okay, yeah, it's 7 out of 10. Yeah, that's what I thought. How many conductors? 1. If it's a commuter train, at most 1. Sometimes, again, 0, but I think driver-only trains in Japan are only on very local and urban lines, and not always on those. The Tokyo subway, as of when I last checked, which probably is maybe... I'm guessing my numbers on Tokyo on this... I'm guessing my sources on Tokyo on this are probably at this point 8 years out of date. But the Tokyo subway is a mix between driver-only trains and driver and conductor trains. But certainly you don't have manual door opening. Look at these trains. These are not trains with only end car opening where one conductor can handle 2 cars because it's a 1 each end. No, there are 4 and they're kind of in the middle of the car. That's not something that could ever be done. The kind of traditional American commuter rail stuff. Forget about it. So this is obviously not what you're doing selective door opening ever. And yeah, in the US, in the US it depends on ridership. So I think it's sometimes defined based on ridership, so based on expected number of passengers. But yeah, it usually boils down to 1 every 2 cars, but not always. Sometimes I think the LAR has 10-car trains, where at rush hour they will have 5 or 6 conductors, but off-peak they might only have 3, or they might even do a thing where the conductor only rides from Penn Station to Jamaica, and then past Jamaica when ridership is when there are fewer passengers, and then they have fewer conductors. So it's, I think, less than 1 per 2 cars, or something to do with where there's closed off cars. That's a Bostonism. I don't think I've seen it around New York, and yeah, that's because of the 1 and 2 cars labor agreement. Just for what it's worth, so I have precise numbers for the LIRR in Metro North because of C3 New York, and as of when I last, what I remember, I'm gonna check that applet right now. It's called C3 New York, and they have bad UI, so I am not going to try to use this on screen right now. It's something like 2.5 or 2.6 conductors per driver, I think is what they imply. Oh my god, they do it on New Jersey Transit too? That's silly. Anyway, so this is, again, an alternative when you have tails. Probably if you have a tail in a system where you need very high values, I don't know what to call them, values not in the sense of like moral values, I mean in the sense of production values, like if you have, maybe standard is a better word, if where it's easier to do, to split the train than to do selective door opening, and maybe it's undesirable to lengthen the platforms, as if outer suburbs of Tokyo, places that are not even in the 3 prefectures that are usually identified with Tokyo suburbia, like Utsunomiya is not. So to not treat them like they're within Tokyo. Germany, yeah, no, in Boston I say it all the time, it's silly. In Germany, the norm is that S-Bahn trains are driver only. Regionalbahn trains have conductors. I don't know how many. I think it's 1 maybe. And now all the conductor does is verify that everyone has the Deutschland ticket. but that's because the Regionalbahn trains are not very modernized. It's or like they can have very modern rolling stock, but they're still treated as this kind of traditional, usually hourly trains. They're not usually. I mean, sometimes they are, but usually they're not timetabled to overlie to have frequent urban service. They're starting to do bits and pieces of that in Berlin with 20-minute service on RE1, but usually because there's traction with intercities, they don't do that. They platoon. So they also have high operating costs, and as a result, they are financially not very good, especially now that they're essentially free to use, because the people riding them tend to be people who would be riding other kinds of public transport, and then have the €49 monthly and then ride them for free. But I've done that video before about regional trains. Yeah, so that's one. So anyway, that's one situation in which you split a train. Another, and while we're on the subject of regional trains, they do it a lot on regional trains in Germany. They also do it on the Shinkansen. Is you split a train to get to different destinations, and that's probably the more common use case of splitting a train. That's when you're kind of in the opposite situation as Shonan Shinjuku. So if Shonan Shinjuku branched, which it does, then, or if it branched more, there would just be trains to all the branches, because so they say that the frequency is a train every hour, and becomes 2 trains per hour at rush hour. But first of all, this is itself a branch, because this is also a branch. And then there's this branch and this branch. So on the core line, these are the different kinds of services. Again, this does branches. There's Utsunomiya and Takasaki to the north. There's Tokaido and Yokosuka to the south. And if it branched more, maybe they would split because they don't want sub-train per hour. But that's already 4 different kinds of trains, thank you very much, on the core line. And so, if it's a frequent line, and I forgot something important. On the coremost part, between Ikebukuro and Shibuya, or maybe Ebisu, I don't remember. Yeah, and Ebisu. Yeah, you also have the Saikyo line. The Saikyo line gets to Omiya and Akabane, but it uses a different route to get there. Uses a different route to get to Ikebukuro. So even that, so it's a bunch of branches of branches. If for some, so because of that, you just run a lower frequency per branch. That's fine. You don't need to run massive frequency on a branch of the Takasaki line. It's far from Tokyo. All you care about at that range is capacity. And again, there are other options. It's not like the only train that you can take from a place like Takasaki is that train that's hourly, because the rapid, special rapid, whatever. Each of them runs that. So so when you're talking about a place like Tokyo where the trunks are very busy, you can just branch. But in places where the branch, yeah, but there is but the conductors still handle ticketing, which again is kind of strange, given that at this point, given that I think even before the 9-year ticket, this was on the same kind of, the ticketing was always handled as part of the Verkehrsverband, so it was always check that the person has a valid intercity ticket, or check that they have the appropriate monthly pass for the region. Germany being a land of monthly passes rather than pay per ride. It's just, again, not very efficient. Deutsche Bahn has way more people working for it than, let's say, Japanese railways, which kind of shed all of that bit to third sector railways, and the part that they do run, yeah, there's the conductor, but that's not the main cost driver when you're running an extremely full 10-car train through central Tokyo. This is why they didn't save the money. They're actually very labor efficient otherwise. So with the train splitting, in a situation that's specifically not that of Tokyo, and in a situation that's like, I think I saw it on a train once. I took to visit someone that I know in Augsburg. So this was me and Sid riding a regional train. This is not the appropriate place to show you varying progress crayon for Amman. When we're taking a train from here to here, from München to Augsburg, that train, I believe, split past Augsburg. Not relevant to us because we were just taking it to the split point. I don't remember the destinations past Augsburg. And this was a train that was not very frequent. I don't remember, I mean, Deutsche Bahn actually has usable UI. I mean, people complain about German digital governance a lot. The digital governance here is a little bit drunk. I have had much better experience with German digital governance than I've had with American, and I think also Canadian. Digitalization in Canada. I lived in Canada 2 years without health insurance, for all intents and purposes, because I legally was supposed to have health insurance as part of the Canadian single-payer system as soon as I got my visa and everything, but for some reason I never got my insurance card. I was supposed to, again, it's not like me forgetting to register, not Mülheim. München. Why do you keep telling me that I want to be in Mülheim? Yeah, I mean, are you trying to tell me that I should not be in Bavaria? I mean, I agree, but why Mülheim, of all places? If I'm trying to not be in Bavaria, I'm going to be in Berlin. Thank you very much. Verbindung, oh god. Thank you, Deutsche Bahn. You suck. This is, what the hell? Okay, I'm gonna check this. Okay, this I'm just gonna check because I want to know what the hell happened. That train number Eurocity 216 is 2.5 hours delayed. And the sad thing is, it's going to Saarbrücken. This tells me that it probably did not originate in Munich. Yeah, it originated in Graz. Is this a train where all of the delay originated in Austria? The answer is no. This is absolutely... It entered Germany about an hour late. And oh no. Oh no. And is being delayed at München Ost. Oh no. Germany. Why? And I was hoping that I could blame everything on Austria for a moment. Anyway, I'm saying, I'm just looking just to figure, how about instead of checking timetables now, I'm going to check timetables later, and by later I mean let's do January 3rd. And let's do it midday, because I'm worried that, especially, I mean, maybe if it's not, maybe if it's a regional train, it's not a big deal now, but if it's, an intercity, then at 7:30 the frequency might already be reduced if it's a multi-hour trip to Frankfurt or something. Okay, so this sure looks like the trains run hourly-ish, and somehow the Regionalbahn only runs every 2 hours. I think this was the train that we might have taken, I don't remember. We did not take an ICE, we took a Regionalbahn, or a Regionalexpress. I remember there being more regional trains than every 2 hours when we went. Yeah, but anyway, the point is that even when it's not every 2 hours, even when it was, I remember, maybe every hour or every half hour even, it might be valuable to, instead of branch, split the train so that the branches get decent frequency. Again, I don't remember what the branches are past Augsburg. Probably, I don't know, maybe one of them went to Donauwald, not Donauwald, Donauwald. I don't remember where the other would have gone. I don't think it was a turn. I think it was a split. And at some point, I need to like not think about random villages in Bavaria, like this one. I visit from time to time. It is rather village-like there. But in general, whenever you're getting a branching, one of the possibilities that you should entertain is splitting the train. There is a paper by a German rail former professional who could not get a job in the field, and I think just ended up dropping out of it and doing something else, named Reinhard Klever, who used to have a website called ThinkMetric and was talking a lot about how to do integrated time transfer timetabling. He got a PhD on the, I believe, from Berkeley, so he was talking about this in the context of early planning for California high-speed rail in like late 90s, early 2000s. So a lot of California rail advocates would cite him a lot on this. So he had this kind of weird idea that there should be that the high-speed trains should split because they don't need to be streamlined at low speed. So the less aerodynamic noses can split into many destinations in the Bay Area, and that is, to be very clear, drunk. Like the train is aerodynamic because it is not splittable. Like a train that is aerodynamic cannot be split, and so the high-speed trains that are split, it happens a lot in Japan, it happens a lot in France, I think also in Germany. No, it definitely happens in Germany. What happens is there are two trains that are just coupled. So the noses are streamlined at both ends of the split, and this means that the train has fewer seats. Couple tens fewer seats out of 16 cars, because instead of having 2 end cars, you get 4 end cars, and usually an end car, depending on how aggressive you are about this, it's usually about, I think in Japan it's maybe 60% as many seats, in Germany it's a little more than that, and in France it's, you don't lose anything because France doesn't do EMU, so the end cars never have seats anyway. And I guess in Germany they just don't have 16-car trains, but even a non-split 16-car train is 2 8-car trains that are coupled. In Japan it would be a straight 16-car train. The Shinkansen north of Tokyo couples 10-car trains to trains that used to be 6 cars. I think they've reformed them as 7 cars, with but they're the length of a 6-car train, just the cars are shorter. Where the long train goes all the way north. It used to be to Morioka, and then to Hachinohe, and then Aomori, and now Hakodate. And then the short version, and then the short train branches off at I'm forgetting, I think maybe Sendai or Fukushima. There are 2 branch points, I don't remember. Then one goes to Yamagata, so here. The other goes to Akita. So it's either the long train couples to a train that goes to Yamagata, or the long train couples to a train that branches farther north and goes to Akita. Again, I don't remember. I don't remember the branching point right now. So you could do that, it's just uncommon. Usually, in this case it happens because there's a stronger trunk and weaker branches. The branches don't even have full Shinkansen, they just took the old line and dual gauged it. Lots of single track, the average speed is very low. I think it's like maybe 80 or 90 kilometers an hour. So not even upgraded standard speed rail, which would probably average 110, 120, 130. And that's fine because once the train goes on the Shinkansen line, it averages 220 or something like that. And so so the average speed to Tokyo is high. That's what matters really. So that's definitely an option. You do it when you probably can't support the frequency for a long train all the way. And in this case, they couldn't even justify building a standard gauge Shinkansen on a new line all the way that they did on the trunk, or the way that they pretended that they did to Niigata. The Jutsu Shinkansen when it opened lost money. I think it may no longer lose money, but that took a lot of restructuring under Jerry East. And this line was just pork to where the Prime Minister was from. That's all. Borners will tell you how corrupt LDP governance is on things like that. Oh, Fukushima and it's Morioka? Oh, wow. Okay, so, yeah, so it branches way farther north than I thought. Oh, it just goes like this? I thought it was a very long north-south line, but I guess it's this. But anyway, yeah, but anyway, thank you. So your option is always to split the train versus to branch. When would you split the train? It's kind of a negative space, like in the sense that it's less about when is it worthwhile to split the train, because you always have the same benefits and the same drawbacks. The drawbacks of train splitting are the train splitting operations are complex. This means you need to pre-place the driver at the right spot. Even then, the splitting takes time. The recombination also takes time. Something might go wrong, and therefore you need to budget a few more minutes. Again, on an intercity train, the way the nodes work means that you do lose seats. And on a regional train, not really, because usually regional trains are coupled that way anyway. So the European norm on regional trains is that they are inherently between 2 and 6 cars. Usually 4 cars are about 3/4 the length of a double-deck car or a high-speed car. So think of it as an American or Shinkansen 3-car train. And then you just couple several of them together, usually 2, sometimes in big cities 3. So the trains already come as units that are separate and can be split. And again, this is also true of long high-speed trains in Europe. The norm here is the trains are never inherently 400 meters long. Maybe some of the Eurostars are, some of the newer Eurostars are, I don't remember. But Eurostars around are. They could eliminate the security theater, they could eliminate the migration theater, they could stop telling people to show up half an hour in advance, they could speed up boarding, they could reduce fares to levels more fitting of a domestic high-speed train. If they did all of that, then they would be able to fill many more trains. They have chosen not to do so, therefore Eurostar ridership is I believe it's 10 million a year, or maybe a little more than 10 million a year, and TGV ridership is about 110, I believe, and it's hard to say what ICE is, because Germany does not have a clean difference between high-speed and non-high-speed intercity trains, but it's probably about 140, 150. Ridership, do they say? Okay, they say that this is market share and it's only versus air, not versus cars and ferries. Okay, they certainly used to say what the ridership was. They had a table, but maybe it was only from the 90s and early 2000s, I don't remember. But at one point in the 2010s, it was 10 million. a year. And again, domestic in France is a little more than 100. Domestic in Germany is probably about the same per capita. They have this idea of getting up to 30. Not yet, but in the future with lots and lots of growth and lol. Okay, yeah, no. Rounding error. So yeah, we're talking about trains that are inherently 200 meters here, so they're free to split from the perspective of train characteristics and having enough seats, but you still need to pre-position the drivers. The splitting ops take time. They're not necessarily smooth, and the benefit is that you can take the train to multiple locations. Oh, and it can also confuse passengers. Usually it means that like someone needs to remind the passengers to be in the right half of the train, in the correct half of the train. This is kind of weak sauce in both directions. Like the benefits and the drawbacks. So really, the question is about the alternative, and the alternatives are forced transfer and branching. So it really is about, are the alternatives to train splitting good or bad in this place? So when is branching good? Well, branching naturally lets you run more service on the core than not in the core. Which means that the benefit of it is also constant. The drawback is that the branches get less frequency, and frequency matters. So this means that branching is good in proportion to how much frequency you're already running. Because if let's say it's an intercity line and you have different branches and they each run hourly, that's okay. I mean, if it's long distance intercity, not like Berlin-Hamburg hourly is not the best. Berlin-Munich, it's basically fine. So if you have a bunch of different branches, then it's fine to run hourly. Again, if it's a 4-hour train, that's okay. So the more service you're running and the longer the distances, the better branching looks as a solution. Then there's the forced transfer. The forced transfer has a benefit, which is you don't need to worry about train ops as much, but see below. And generally means that the branches can't create problems in the core. Under branching they do, under splitting they create even more, because when you merge, not when you split, but when you merge, the branches need to get there at the same time. If one branch is delayed, then it delays the other branch, because it delays a train that needs to be formed. With forced transfers, generally the branches don't matter to the core, to the trunk rather. And so forced transfers are useful if the branches are much weaker than the trunk. What this means is that if I'm thinking about how to take a train from Berlin, not to Munich, but to even smaller villages in Bavaria than Munich, then the standard is going to be the forced transfer unless the village is on the way, and sometimes even then, the intercities, the ICS, don't stop at Ingolstadt. We can debate if they should, but they don't. So, I mean, Ingolstadt probably would ride from Nuremberg, not from Munich, but everywhere else you'd ride from Munich. So this means that if my destination is a much smaller village than Munich, let's say again Augsburg, the train doesn't branch from Berlin to Augsburg. I think there are some trains that do that trip, but you would never take them, because the way it used to work before they opened this line, the high-speed line here, was that the trains left this line was so slow that the trains behaved as if they were going to Frankfurt, and then they went, I think, like this, and at some point, or they even went via Augsburg. Certainly before the line from Ingolstadt to Nuremberg opened, this was just I guess, for regional and interregional trains, and the intercities went via Augsburg. They no longer do that. So the point is that if I'm going Berlin to Augsburg, I go to Munich and then I change trains. That's a forced transfer. This is because the trains don't necessarily have to affect each other very much. Augsburg is a much weaker place than Berlin, which means that you're not going to delay a train to Berlin because of a delay from Augsburg. Ditto if I'm going to a place like Rosenheim, Landshut, whatever. Passau. And other places that I know mainly from playing toll and taxis. And this is again true in general. Like if I go to a place in Czechia that is not on a direct line to Berlin because it's not Praga and it's not maybe Brno or like Ostrava or something. But like if you go to a place here that's not Praga, what happens is I take a train from Berlin and then I change to a train from Praga to Plzeň, which for some reason spelled as if it were a German word here. Again, maybe if it's a train like on a tram, like if it's a train in between, like in like Ústí as a stop. But everything else I would just change, and that's fine because Prague dominates the others as a destination. So the point of a forced transfer is that it's useful if you're trying to have a very strong trunk line and you don't care as much about the branching. And so this is something that I think could have actually been done on the Shinkansen. It's certainly done on the Shinkansen when it's not mini Shinkansen to Yamagata and Akita. They just delay to transfer because they're not going to hold up a system that very efficiently gets people between Tokyo and Osaka because of literally anything that's not Tokyo or Osaka or maybe Nagoya. So if you're trying to go somewhere in the Kansai region that's not Kyoto or Osaka or Kobe, from Tokyo you take the Shinkansen to Osaka or again maybe Kyoto or Kobe, and then you change trains because they're not going to bother to make these trains depend on each other. So when is that solution, the forced transfer, useful? Again, when there's a lopsided mismatch in demand between trunk and branches. Also, when frequency is high, because this is a transfer. Transfers work better. Untimed transfers work better when the frequency is higher. Alternatively, when you can time the transfers, but that introduces dependence. You don't want to always do it. What you can do sometimes is have the branches time with other branches and then run a very frequent trunk. I don't know to what extent it's ever done because the intercities in Germany are not quite that frequent. They could be, but they're not. In Japan, I don't think they do these time transfer situations where they have a bunch of different branches that all pulse at the same regional or even metropolitan center, the way that they do here and in Switzerland. But it's something that could, in theory, be combined. Where, let's say, if the trains in Germany were faster, then they could fill more trains between, let's say, Berlin and Hannover. Why Hannover? Because Hannover is kind of a reverse branch point, or branch point of view. From Berlin's point of view, it's a branch point. From the point of view of the larger metro, it's a reverse branch. Like, there are actually a lot of ICEs between Berlin and Hannover. This is showing me 3 an hour. 4 if you count the ICE. Maybe some of them are missing or something, but this is just 3, 2, maybe this is 3. But yeah, this looks like 2 cents 3 an hour, maybe? Yeah. This is because trains from Berlin to Hannover. This is not because Hannover is important. It isn't. Hannover's greatest contribution is that Schröder used to be from there. For some reason, I thought he used to be the mayor. He was not. He was just SPD chair there. So I think maybe was elected from a constituency there or something like that, a district, Wahlkreis. That's Hannover's contribution to Germany, Gasgeld. But Hannover is on the way to the entire Rhine-Ruhr, and the issue is that the trains to the Rhine-Ruhr split not at a major city. Sorry, they don't split in the sense of splitting trains, they branch rather. They branch, I think the branch point is Hagen, maybe Unna, I don't remember. So so what this means is that Hannover is kind of the last major city before the split, so if the trains were much faster, this means from here to Köln, instead of taking 4 hours, it were 2.5. Then, so, wait, why are you calling this HH? Am I too far? No, this is Hannover. Hannover is not HH. HH is Hamburg. Hannover is just H. This is Hamburg. Weird. And so, yeah, because the splitting happens here. So Ham, not Hagen, Ham. Where the trains to Köln go like this and skip the entire Ruhr proper, and then there's the Ruhr proper trains. If the trains were faster, they could even possibly fill 6 trains an hour, I think. Berlin to Hannover, and then to go to the Ruhr, maybe to go to Düsseldorf and to go to Köln or something like that. And in that case, you don't time anything. You don't time transfers when the trains go every 10 minutes onto the intercities, but you still could have the various interregional trains at Hannover pulse with each other, because they're not running every 10 minutes. There's no point. They would run hourly, maybe half hourly. So, so you could do that, but that still means reducing dependence between a very strong trunk and weaker branches. In that situation, again, the value of train splitting is reduced because you do not want that dependence. If you think about running a train on this very strong line connecting this east-west line that partly exists and is fast and partly is slow and should be bypassed or upgraded, connecting the largest metro area in Germany, which is the Rhine-Ruhr, and the second largest metro area, which is the largest single city, which is Berlin, you do not want to be in a situation where a delay going to Osnabrück or something delays the entire system. You do not want to be in that situation. So this also means that, I said before that the train splitting does not really vary based on lighting characteristics, so it matters what the alternatives are. It's not completely true. Train splitting varies based on how reliable you are. So if you're Japan, you can afford to split trains more than if you're Germany. This doesn't mean that Germany doesn't split trains. It splits trains and just doesn't understand that punctuality matters and people care about being on time. And if you respond to poor punctuality by padding all the timetables 25%, and people just learn that the trains are slow, and if they don't vote green, they're just not going to be on the trains. Thankfully for them, people sometimes do vote green. I mean, I'm sticking with the Greens, but but not because of their intercity rail policy. But yeah, so the point is that you do a forced transfer if you have a very strong trunk and weaker branches. You want the trunk to be very frequent. You split the train. Therefore, for the other solutions, that is to say the force transfer and the timed or otherwise, and the and the branching are weaker. And when do you do that? When the frequency is lower. So if you have a less frequent line, then you should be probably splitting the train, because yeah, you're taking a hit on reliability, but in general, the less frequent you are, the more reliable you can be, because the trains are less close together, and therefore in a vacuum, it means that a delay is less likely to cascade. Now in practice, often this is reversed, because often what happens is that things are not in a vacuum, so you build the infrastructure that you need based on the capacity that you need to run, and as a result, on an infrequent line, you will leave much of it single track. Bear in mind, if it's hourly, that's still going to be single track and a siding every half hour, so that's probably not much. That's probably not very vulnerable to cascading delays, if it's not a very long line. But this is a thing to take into consideration. Whereas usually, if you have a line that's very frequent, often it's because you invested so much in it that maybe it's a Shinkansen line, and then it's just not dealing with other things, and that's why it's going to be very reliable. But still, within the same system, usually the less frequent lines have less opportunity for cascading delays. So that reinforces the fact that you should be thinking about splitting the train when the line is less frequent. Like what we saw to be a 2-hourly regional train, and what I'm convinced runs more than every 2 hours, because when Sid and I were visiting Augsburg, I think the trains were running hourly. And so on a more regional train, as opposed to a very strong intercity trunk, it's usually more valuable to split the train. And again, on a regional train, you're also not going to deal with the problem of the nose consumes space, because you make the train aerodynamic for 160 and not for 300 kilometers an hour. And at least the way the European market works is that the trains, again, are these standard lengths. Japan is different. In Japan, the trains are 10-car sets in Tokyo. So you do derp a little bit if you want to make the train splittable. In theory, Tokyo could just decide that the trains should be split into 5-car units. In practice, why would they? They're Tokyo. So they need the entire 10-car train's worth of capacity running very frequently, all the way to, I want to say pretty far out. Pretty far out is not like hundreds of kilometers, it's tens of kilometers out. It's Tachikawa. Tachikawa is, I think, 40 kilometers from Tokyo, right? Chuo Line Rapid, right? Tachikawa is 40, I think, maybe 42. 37 and a half. Okay. And then Takawa is 53. That's the part that keeps striking me. I keep remembering that Tachikawa is about the same as Hicksville from Penn Station, and then I keep thinking that Takawa is like Ronkonkoma, and no, it's much closer. Ronkonkoma is about, Hicksville is about 40, and Ronkonkoma is about 80 kilometers from Penn Station. So the point is, you need the frequency and you need the capacity on level to cow. I mean, not 100% of it, but much of it. So yeah, they could. So the Chuo Line is actually a good counterexample to train splitting. The Chuo Line doesn't split. The Chuo Line, what happens is at Chikawa the trains branch. Most of the trains continue to Takao. Some of them go past Takao, but it's not very common. And some of them branch off at Tachikawa to the Omi line. Let's see if we can see. Yeah, there's a good map. So Chuo Line. This stays the Chuo Line. This is Omi. Yes, no, this is Omi. So the Omi line, the Omi line trains. I don't know if some of them just go to Tachikawa and make you transfer. Usually they branch. At least when I check trains from Tachikawa to Tokyo on Hyperdia, when it worked better before they changed the UI. Now it sucks. You could there were a lot of trains that did this and a lot of trains that did this. But again, this is a very high frequency line. So yeah, okay. I mean the trains run every, I think, 5 minutes off peak. The gaps are a little irregular, but mostly every 5 minutes off peak or something like that. And yeah, you can split that to every, 10. It's not that clean, but it's something like that. This is tens of kilometers from Tokyo. A train every 10 or even 15 minutes is not a problem from the perspective of frequency as freedom. So yeah, of course you're gonna branch. Branching is the default when you're just trying to give people a good connection to city center, or to the national center if it's an intercity network. National center doesn't have to be one place like Tokyo. It can be any number of big cities: Berlin, Frankfurt, München. Okay, not München. Berlin, Frankfurt. Let's not dignify Bavaria's largest village with calling it a big city. Oh, they cut out the branching? Huh, okay. Because early on Hyperdia, when I was obsessing about it in the when I was obsessing over it in the 2010s, there were lots of trains that were branching to Ome. Maybe they changed it, but again, I can't check Hyperdia as cleanly anymore because they used to have something called interval timetable, where if you had the right sequence of clicks, you could have every train on a line between two stations and all the intermediate stations that they made. So you could just, it would generate you a timetable for, let's say, all Shinkansen from Tokyo to, I don't know, Fukuoka, or all Chuo rapid line trains between, I don't know, Shinjuku and Tachikawa, or Tokyo and Tachikawa, or Tokyo and Takao. So, and again, they would show you all the intermediate stations, so you'd literally be able to see which trains ran express and which ran local, and you would be able to see the express trains have timed overtakes of the locals at intermediate stops. It was really pretty, and they eliminated them. And so the point is that here they branched. Maybe they don't anymore, but they used to, and it's fine because that's how you shove as much human mass on trains to Tokyo, where you absolutely need the capacity. I don't think they have pushers on the Chuo line anymore. I think they have them elsewhere. I don't think this is I don't think this is the most crowded line in Tokyo or something. The worst crowding is from the east, not from the west. So, but still, you need a lot of capacity in order to maximize. I mean, this is still. So when I'm saying it's not the most crowded line, what I mean is it's a line that's probably more crowded than anything in New York City, whereas. Or in pre-corona New York City, whereas this is something that is lol, enjoy your life. Jorudan. What is Jorudan? I have not seen this before. We can investigate together. I am not much of a weeb. I have watched 2 anime shows in my entire life. One of them nobody in this forum has heard of. The other, I imagine you guys have heard of. Not that many people have watched in the grand scheme of things. This being Utama. The one that nobody's heard of is 3,000 Leagues in Search of Mother. Unless you're Israeli, you have not heard of it. And if you're Israeli, you do not know what I'm talking about, because in Israel they translated the name as The Heart, because it was a fictionalization of about a 2-page mini story in the book Il Cuore. The book Il Cuore was very popular in 1950s Israel because the kind of Italian nationalism that it promoted was something that spoke to like early Israel. And so an anime based on a small portion of it was then sold in Israel as if it was about the entire book, to the point that Israelis, or my generation, not like my parents or my grandparents, when they think of the story, when they think of the story of The Heart, they don't think of the original book. They think about the anime, which again is like 2-page anime. Let's check Tachikawa, Tokyo. Let's not do Christmas Eve because they never know what is going on with her. Let's do Tuesday the 9th, not 4:07 in the morning, which is about the only time there are no trains. Let's do noon. Is there an interval timetable here, or am I going to have to deal with easy, fast, cheap? And why is this telling me to change trains at Ogikubo? Oh, okay. Okay. Timetable button, tap right. Station name, Kokubunji. I am slightly annoyed that it's giving me the date in American format and not in Japanese format, but Tour Takao for Tokyo and let's just do for Tokyo. Ooh, that's okay. It doesn't tell me the trip times, but it does show me frequency, which is nice. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, not every 5 minutes, I'm sorry, every 4 minutes. 4, 7, 10, 13. Yeah, every 4.5 minutes there's a train. Your arguments are invalid. So yeah, this is why you would want to branch. Again, maybe they stopped, I don't know why, but it made sense the many years that they did branch, is all I'm gonna say. And again, they're not splitting trains because you don't split trains on lines that are that frequent, because the 2 minutes delay in splitting will ruin your day when you're running every 5 minutes. So when you're running every 5 minutes with timed overtakes. And so yeah, you split it lower frequency. On intercity, we're talking worse than hourly, because otherwise it is actually better to branch. Like, there are cases in like Switzerland where a very peripheral branch will be a train every 2 hours, so then there's natural branching with hourly trains on the slightly busier city pair. Or ideally half hourly on it. I wouldn't say core ones, but core ones means even things like St. Gallen. I think St. Gallen is every hour to Tsiri and not every half hour. Sorry, I think it's every half hour to Tsiri and not every hour. But let's actually check this, because I'm curious. One of the most important German that you need to know is how to reject all the cookies. Okay, so how often does this run? Hard to exactly say, but because, so let's see, the fastest, no, that is every half hour with the URCity. Yeah, so it is every half hour, not every hour. I guess there are some missing trains, because, and then they're interregional. Ooh, thank you on this. Yeah, and so the, so if you're going past St. Gallen, yeah, then you probably would want to still branch and not split a train, but beyond that you might want to split. If you're getting things that are worse than hourly, especially worse than every 2 hours, then you don't want to have that bad of a frequency even when it's places that are really like getting to like less than a village. We're talking like hamlets. And so the so that is when you want to split. Essentially, it's when the alternatives are worse. It's when, and remember, the main alternative is never splitting; it's branching. So it's when branching is not great. That's when you want to split. And again, when you can't force transfer because maybe the forced transfer is not going to work very well. Maybe, especially when it's something very rural, the transfer will only work if it's timed. So you still have that timetable dependence. So that's not something that you avoid, again, unless it's a bunch of branches that can pulse with one another, where the trunk runs very frequently. But we're talking about Switzerland right now. The trunk does not, in fact, run very frequently. In Germany, again, it could, but it currently doesn't, because the trains are slow. In France, it could, but it also doesn't, because while the trains run at a very high frequency, they never make the same stops very frequently, because the way the TGV works is there's a specific bypass around Lyon, so trains that continue past Lyon never stop at Lyon par Dieu. They only stop, not always then, at the airport. Which just be glad that they branch this way, that the trains can stop at the airport and continue to more than one destination. Uh, I mean, right now they can only continue here, but they're at least building things so that the trains could continue to the tunnels that they're building to Torino. Um, so at least there would be some kind of semblance of having a trunk between Paris and the airport in Lyon, which is not where people want to go. Um, but in this case, it would not. I should say, by the way, that the TGV solution, where everything is on a branch, even Paris is on a branch, Lyon is on a branch. That's also something that works better when you have very high throughput, so that all these millions of city pairs, Paris to Lyon, Paris to Marseille, Paris to Dijon, Lille to all of these, maybe not to Dijon, but Lille to Lyon, Lille to Marseille, all of that, when all of them could actually run at something approximating good frequency, while still not either saturating the line or massively over-serving, which you're not. I mean, Paris is a big city. I mean, yeah, of course, you can fill trains Paris to Lyon and Paris to Avignon and Paris to Marseille and Paris to Toulon and Nice and Paris to Nîmes and Montpellier, and Paris to Genève, and eventually Paris to Torino. So this kind of weird branching with kind of like branches without a trunk, if that makes sense. Because when I think of a trunk, I think of, maybe it's just me, but when I think of a trunk on a train, I think of service that you can take internally to the trunk. So I don't think of, let's say, the East River tunnels as a trunk. I think of it as a constraint. I think of it as a bottleneck, or the North River tunnel, the same thing. Because you don't just take a train between Penn Station and, I don't know, Long Island City. The station called Long Island City is a reverse branch. It's not even in the tunnel. It's in the surface. It's on the surface for trains that don't go into the tunnel. They don't even have a station here or here. I think there are long-term plans to build one here. There are no plans here, but they also should. Penn Station to Jamaica is a trunk. You can take the train. It's absolutely normal. There's trains that skip Jamaica that they should, which they shouldn't, but it's normal to take the trains from Penn Station to Jamaica. I did all the time when I was flying out of JFK, and they lived closer to Penn Station than to a subway train that gets me to Jamaica better. Like when I started taking the subway a lot when I started staying at hotels in Long Island City. But when I lived in Manhattan, I would take the subway to Penn Station, and then of course on the higher. Yeah, and I would have to pay extra, but it's an airport trip. I'm already paying extra. Sorry to bother me. Apology not accepted. No, don't pin. One of these days I'll remember how to ban someone from... Yep. Sorry, now I'm trying to figure out how to not have this message in this window anymore. I'm not gonna send a report. No time, no mod comments, just okay. The escape button worked. Yeah, so this is an example actually of branches without a trunk, because there's no, I mean, I guess maybe New York to Secaucus, but most trains skip Secaucus and there's nothing in Secaucus. So this is just a byproduct of what is a semi-trunk to Newark Penn, or to Newark, another to Newark Broad, but no proper trunk. And on the LIR there is a trunk to Jamaica, but this is not also the trunk to Penn Station Access, I don't think. And again, it's something that you can get away with at very high frequency on an intercity network. it's something you can get away with on an urban network with high frequency. I mean, there is high frequency to Jamaica. The frequency to Newark Penn is not bad. The frequency to Newark Broad might, I think, is bad off peak, but could be fixed. The problems with New Jersey Transit frequency, the problems with New Jersey Transit capacity are peak. Off peak, they could increase service if they cared. They don't, but they could. And so, again, in big cities like New York, you're not splitting trains. I mean, maybe you're splitting trains very far out. Like we're talking, maybe you split a train in Dover or something, so that maybe some trains go on this line that is being rebuilt and some go to Hackettstown. Or maybe if you upgrade the station platforms to be longer somewhere but not farther out, then you can do it to low selective door opening. But again, the splits would be far out in places where demand is low enough that it's not going to muck the train. Like you're not splitting a train at Hicksville. Maybe at Ronkonkoma? Maybe. The problem in Ronkonkoma is the problem in the main line past Ronkonkoma is not the cars. It's not having enough train cars. First of all, this is not electrified, but even if they did electrify ridership, it would be more ridership because of direct service to New York, but it wouldn't be massively more. Or rather, it would be massively more, but starting from numbers that are like 5 people get off or on per station. So massively increasing from 5 to 30 still means basically nothing. So the problem with the operating cost of this is the crew. So, and it's also true past Babylon, where the diesel ridership is low, but it's not this level of embarrassment of like 2 people per train. Or not 2 people per train, 2 people per station. It's something where, yeah, the more direct service would increase ridership, because right now what people do is they drive to Ronkonkoma from all over, because that's the easternmost electrification. But they wouldn't. But the problem is, there would still be a massive gradient of ridership, but that's not something that I think would justify train splitting out here, because frequency is higher. The operating cost problem this far out actually is not. Again, it's not the trains. It's not the rolling stock. It's that the timetable is peaky to the point that crew timetabling is a mess, especially because of diesel electric issues. The crews qualify separately, so the productivity of each crew is abominable. This far out. Splitting the train is not going to fix that. And again, you can't split the train anyway until you electrify. So. Not to dunk on Tokyo again. Tokyo is splitting trains in a very different environment, where it's, I showed you guys, it's like branches of branches. Like at some point you do need to start splitting. So anyway, that's my take on train splitting. Add it to your toolkit. Don't use it everywhere. Don't think that you can split a high-speed train. Again, you can form a high-speed train as 2 trains, as 2 200-meter trains, but you can't go smaller than that. It's not useful. You're wasting too much space. I'm sorry, Reinhardt. I'm sorry, Reinhardt Clavel. Generally, you were correct. Not on this thing. And again, think of it as mostly what to do when you shouldn't be branching, because the frequency that would result from branching would be too low. Think of it what to do when you're reliable enough that the more moving parts coming from the splitting, when having more moving parts isn't going to wreck your reliability. So, do people have questions? It's a shorter stream than the usual 2-hour slog. There's a long delay here. A very long one. Yeah, we're talking almost a minute of delay. Yeah, 50 seconds of delay. Yeah, I need to give you guys much more time to type your answers or your questions. Not my answers. I'm talking about. Questions and answers are kind of opposites of each other, so kind of almost literally. I don't know why there's such a delay. Like the internet has not been like we haven't had random disconnects, but also like you saw how I quit Google Earth at one point because uh, because data was not being downloaded for some reason. It's when I switched to OpenRailer Mac. But yeah, I'm gonna give it another minute of awkwardness and then quit, just because I don't want, like, I really don't want to like quit while people type questions. Usually the delay is 10 seconds or 15 seconds, and then it's much more fluid, the discussion, but here it's gonna be much less fluid. Okay, looks like people don't have questions. I mean, I don't give infinite time, I'm sorry. So yeah, thank you for all, not thank you for all, word order. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in the future in 3 days or a week or a week and a half, we'll see. Topic TBD. Thank you, and ciao ciao.